To not bribe cops at this time is
Insane.
it's like mind-boggling. Like mind-boggling. Like every gangster at this point.
It was
yeah.
the gangsters and the cops were like, it was just, Chicago was nuts.
Some might even say that the cops were the gangsters.
Welcome to 500 Open Tabs. I'm Hannah Hillam.
And I'm Kaveh Taherian. I can't even say my name correctly, but you know what? That's show business, baby. Kaveh Taherian.
There it is.
Yeah.
Kaveh Taherian, right there. What's up, Taherian? How's it going?
It's going pretty well. I'm very excited because there's supposed to be rain this weekend at the time of this recording, which is thrilling. LA has needed rain. I don't know if you've heard, but there's been couple of disasters here, so
I actually
love
don't
the
read
rain.
The news. I feel like it's too stressful.
Wow, you're an intellectual.
I'm an intellectual. I'm above reading the news.
But I feel like I imagine everyone this weekend is going to be like at the end of Shawshank, where Andy Dufresne's got his hands out, looking up, and then they're just playing the dramatic music. So I'm hoping that that's going to curb some of the chaos. But little ones keep sprouting up, and by little I mean just not nearly as insanely big. They're
still
not little.
Huge. Would have made news a year ago, but
100%.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to know that there might be rain.
I think there will be. I think it's going to happen. I shouldn't say for sure. You never know.
Yeah,
but,
you can't say.
That's the only thing I'm excited about.
Remember when we the first episode back of the new year, and we closed the tabs by burning them, and then 2 days later, LA was on fire.
Listen, we should just close our tabs with rain this time.
We control the weather.
It's true.
I think that's true.
Yeah, we are weather predicting, controlling podcasters, just like Marjorie Taylor Greene had always wanted to know why we didn't weigh in earlier. But sorry, Margie, we were busy.
Marge, I don't have time for you.
Okay, so funny enough, we were talking about fires, but like fires, am I right?
Oh, the worst.
So
hot take Hannah here, and I'm here to say fires aren't good. I mean, they come, sometimes they asterisk.
I mean, if you're Zoroastrian, it's like a big sign of rebirth and all that stuff.
True.
But that's not the time or place right now. That's not the kind of fires we're talking about. But obviously, they've been on my mind quite a bit as of late. And, there's a lot of destruction. But thankfully, we're also seeing a lot of genuinely awesome people step up and be decent and help each other out. And that's fantastic. And I love it. Unfortunately... We're also seeing scumbags and total pieces of shit use this moment to leverage our tragedy into something for themselves. And it's gross, and we don't like those people. And I've gotten really mad about it, as you might expect. Yeah, I know. Normally I'm so calm.
You've never been mad in your life.
Never. It's terrible. It's really, it's really bad. And
it's evil.
It goes without saying that it's important to question what accountability is and how we got here and why certain things happened. But there's a moment and the time and a place for it. And I think in the middle of it is not necessarily the best time to start pointing fingers before the fires have even been put out or anyone even has any information or ideas about what's going on or how we got here in the first place. You kind of got to give it a second. That being said, in this moment, I think that people are really looking more than anything for help and compassion. Yeah. And that's what you've seen like over and over again. And ultimately, if you try and blame something that you don't actually have all the information about on somebody or something that you don't know, there will be consequences for running your mouth.
Yeah, there will.
And that's bad. And
will there though? That's the thing. I don't know, man.
But here's the thing. It's not always consequences for the person that ran their mouth in the first place.
Oh.
And as you might expect, through all my fire reading, naturally, the topic of the Great Chicago Fire came up.
Oh, yeah. Miss O'Leary's cow or whatever.
Yep. So I basically knew nothing about the Great Chicago Fire.
Really?
And as you said, of course, the first thing that comes up is Mrs. O'Leary's cow. And it catches my attention because, as you pointed out on the other episode, I basically tell the same story over and over again about some sort of animal being misplaced because it's like an immigrant story.
Dude, it's true. I was thinking about it more. And I'm like, yeah, that's just like themes. Camels in Australia.
Shtick. But hey, guess what? I'm not so predictable, Hannah. This story goes in a different direction.
What?
Yeah.
The animal should be where it's supposed to be?
Actually, so what ends up happening is this story sets the scene for, I think, an even weirder and more interesting story. Maybe not more interesting, but equally as interesting story.
Okay.
Which is what I'd like to tell you about because I feel like it's relevant to this, as the kids say.
Gesture.
Everything.
Gesture
gestures
around
broadly
wildly.
at everything.
Yeah.
So if you're like me, first, who was Mrs. O'Leary and why does everyone in Chicago know her name?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
I've
assuming
never actually thought about who she is.
Oh, you didn't? I was going to say, I was worried that when I was like, Hannah probably knows everything about this and all this and that.
I read about this years and years ago. I remember my very first, sorry, really quick.
No, go ahead. That's a point.
First deep dive I remember going on was
Yeah.
in like 2004.
Yeah.
And it was pre-Wikipedia and it was, or right when it started maybe. And it was, I stayed up all night reading about the Great Fire of London in 1666. And I could not stop. And then I ended up drawing fire for like 2 months straight.
That's cool.
I read through all of this like 1600s diary of this dude. Anyway, I got obsessed with it, which then led me into reading about more huge fires. So I haven't read about this in literally 20 years. So.
Okay, cool. So you're not well versed on it. Sidebar, as I've been texting you and Alyssa, I've had this weird fixation drawing smoke.
Yeah.
From seeing it on TV and the pictures of it everywhere. And then Chinooks, like the helicopters that drop all the water. I have like filled sketchbook pages with it. It is weirdly like counterintuitively, it's very relaxing to draw. So I totally get it.
It's a form of controlling your environment that you can't control otherwise.
It's kind of a hypnotic process to do it. But anyway, so Mrs. O'Leary was Catherine O'Leary.
Oh.
She was originally from the city of Cork, Ireland.
Okay.
And in 1845, she met a man named Patrick and they married.
Okay.
And around that time, as we've heard time and time again, is when waves of Irish citizens began to immigrate to the United States in search of work and escape the famines. And of course, the O'Learys were no different. So first, they came and settled in Pennsylvania, where Patrick served in the Union Army, possibly coming to blows with Charles Delshaw on the battlefield, I hope.
They at least just pass each other.
I want to see a movie where Charles Delshaw and Patrick O'Leary are on the battlefield being like, we're not even from here.
How do we end up here?
Yeah. Americans suckered us into fighting a battle that I don't even understand what any of this means. But we need citizenship, so what choice do we have?
We have to do it.
Fighting on opposing sides. It's like All Quiet on the Western Front, but with immigrants being like, what is this even?
Why? Who's who?
Yeah.
People are owning people? I mean.
Strange. Anyway, so eventually, the Civil War's done. And then the O'Learys moved further west, settling in Chicago. Okay. And by 1871, they had 5 kids and fittingly 5 cows.
Oh, a cow for each kid.
Cow for each kid. Kind of like Game of Thrones, where each one of them gets a wolf.
A wolf, except and just like Game of Thrones, these are all systemically murdered.
Yeah,
just like the wolves. Just those
dire wolf. Is that what they were called? I forget.
Dire wolf.
I haven't watched that show in quite a long time. Anyway, so
I want to rewatch
5 kids for 5 cows for 5 kids.
That's like a great musical, actually. I wonder, did you guys ever cover 5 cows for 5 kids on Musical Splaining?
Yes, we did, actually.
The cows kidnapped those kids.
Sounds more like a Sondheim joint rather than an Andrew Lloyd Webber one. But that's a debate for our Musical Splaining Forever tab within the Discord. Anyway, so Catherine would milk these cows because she had like a side hustle as a way to make money in addition to raising those 5 children and running the farm. And Patrick worked as a day laborer.
Okay.
And
pretty
in addition,
Irish immigrant.
Yeah,
life.
Exactly. They also rented out the front half of their home to, I think, another Irish family in order to make ends meet.
Okay.
And so these are not well-off people. These are people who are just like barely, struggling, but they've got a good work ethic. They're doing everything they can, living their lives. It's fine. I mean, it's not fine. It sucks. I just mean that there's nothing questionable about them.
Right.
And then on the evening of October 8th, 1871, the O'Leary farm, the barn specifically, caught fire and seems to be what may have ultimately caused the Great Chicago Fire. They think that's where it starts.
They're not totally sure, though. If I remember correctly, it's like one of those, like, maybe it was here, or...
I think there's a lot of, like...
Sure?
I think from what I read, they're pretty sure, but I feel like it's one of those things where everything keeps changing every 5 minutes because no one really knows. But they're also going off of historical records from, 100-something years ago where it might have not been correct.
You could kind of publish anything back then.
Yeah, right. to that point. Okay, so the Great Chicago Fire ultimately killed almost 300 people, destroyed 3 square miles of the city, including over 17,000 structures, and left more than 100,000 people homeless.
Huh.
Just crazy.
That's
massively.
so many.
It's a lot of people. It was a huge deal. And of course, much like what we're experiencing now in Los Angeles, everybody wants answers, and every answer being put forward seems to be dumber and dumber, and people just latch onto the dumbest ones, and then they keep getting more idiotic, and we never change. And I can't even, as the kids used to say.
Nice. Yeah, we're way past that. I don't even know where we are now.
Yeah. So according to the O'Leary family, they were just as confused as everybody else was. Catherine hadn't been feeling great that night and went to bed early.
Oh.
And Patrick only realized like what the shit was going on because their neighbor, a man named Daniel Pegleg Sullivan.
Oh, I need to know everything about that man. How'd he lose his leg? He's like, diabetes.
Yeah, right. Daniel Pegleg Sullivan was shouting at the top of his lungs and sounding the alarm that the barn was in flames. And he sort of like woke everybody up and alerted them to it. And
sorry, I'm just still laughing at the peg leg. I can just picture it. He's like kicking at their door with his peg leg. Anyway,
I'm not even sure if he was at their door. It sounds like he was just running around screaming, freaking out.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
What else do you do? Yeah. So, of course, remember, they lose like everything in this fire, like 100,000 other people there. It's not, they're not doing great. And nevertheless, conspiracy theories immediately sprung up amongst the citizens of Chicago and in the press.
Oh, they blamed the Irish.
Not only the Irish, Catherine was, quote unquote, an old hag on welfare. And the city found out that she was illegally selling milk on the side and forced her to stop. So she vowed revenge. This was one of them.
Whoa, nothing's changed.
Yep.
Wow.
By the way, not that old hag is appropriate, but she wasn't even old. She was like 40 at the time.
Also, yeah, a hag. Isn't a hag like an old, like no kids, no husband witch lady?
I don't know, but that sounds correct.
Unfair, dude.
Yeah, it's gross. So, of course, the truth is she becomes Q and has been trying to take down the Democrats and the adrenochrome sex parties ever since. No, shut up. Death. Go away. I hate all those people.
I know, it's so stupid. It's like, oh, you know what? No,
Yeah.
I can't even say that on a recording. I can't. I'm not going to. I'll say it
anyway.
later.
These are just like poor Irish farmers who are trying to escape a famine, and then suddenly, by some bad strain of luck, their barn catches fire and burns down the city. And for whatever reason, the main story that everyone latched onto was that Catherine was doing a bit of night milking when her cow Daisy got spooked and kicked a nearby lantern.
My favorite REM song is Night Milking. Yeah. One of their best.
Suddenly, all hell breaks loose, and bada bing, bada boom, immigrants are taking all of our arsonist jobs, build the wall, lock her up, etc., so on and so forth.
I was just honest. I made my money doing honest arson, okay?
Yeah.
And these Irish people come in.
Globalism has ruined arsonist.
I can't even light my own house on fire anymore.
Set a tariff on arson somehow. I don't know.
Politics aren't influencing us at all right now. It's fine. Yeah. We're good.
Totally predictable. It just literally is like the same. It's like checklist of just like boom, 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 immigrant women, poor, blah, blah. They're the ones who do. It's their fault.
You sound just like George Bush just said.
HW or just W?
W.
Oh no.
Well, you have like a Texan.
Anyway, basically everyone's an idiot and everyone latches onto it. They're like, "Yup, sounds right to me." And a version of that take was published in the Chicago Republican by a former police reporter named Michael Ahern. Ahern?
I've always wondered about that last name. Ahern?
Ahern? I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like if it's be like Ahern or something. I don't know.
Ahern. Ahern.
Ahernia. Aaron. I don't know. Aaron. Is it Irish?
I don't know, honestly. And forgive the pun, but soon the legend of Mrs. O'Leary's cow spread like wildfire.
Oh, that was a sloppy pun, but I'll forgive it.
It doesn't really spread like spread like barn fire.
Oh, spread like an Irish person's arson.
Yeah, exactly. Eventually, later on, a report written by the Board of Police and Fire Commissioners would prove none of the shit was true, but the damage was already done.
Oh.
Catherine and the rest of her family were persona non grata, and she was forced to live as a recluse, only coming out allegedly to go to church on Sundays.
Oh.
Until her eventual death in 1895, less than a year after her husband Patrick. So basically, it just ruined their lives. Yeah. You want to get even more annoyed?
Always.
To add insult to injury, years later, Michael Ahern, whatever his last name is, would go on the record at being like, oh yeah, LOL, I just made up the whole thing. That wasn't even really the story.
What?
Shrug emoji.
Shrug emoji. He said that. The first time it was ever said in
That's the
print.
first. That's actually what my tab's about, is the origin of the shrug emoji.
And
it really came from Michael Ahern saying it.
He came out and said he made it up.
It's like years later, he's like, oh, that story? I didn't. Doesn't even occur to him. You know, he doesn't even register. What a piece of shit. And the whole family.
Ugh.
So what did cause the Chicago fire? Who gives a shit? The exact question that you're asking right now doesn't matter. The point is that this impoverished immigrant mother was wrongfully accused of the city's greatest disaster, and no one even bothered to be like, oh, hey, sorry about that.
Of course not. Well, it's
sorry,
easy.
I set you up for that one.
I don't care anymore.
I know.
Sorry. I'm good. Look how good I am. Yeah.
So that's what I noticed, is that a lot of stuff tends to just be like, oh, well, what caused that doesn't matter. What about this woman whose entire life was destroyed?
Everything. It's the thing is that they see her as less than deserving. Like, she doesn't deserve that life that she had.
Yeah.
If she's coming over here and taking our arson jobs or whatever, fill in the blank.
Right. Michael Ahern certainly didn't give a shit.
Tale as old as time.
So just imagine what it's like to be in her position, what that was like. Or worse, imagine if that was like your mother. And one of her 5 kids, James Patrick O'Leary, was affected by it in a different way.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Born in 1869, James was only a couple of years old when the fire broke out.
Oh.
So all he ever knew of his mother was the aftermath when she was a broken woman.
Oh, that's so sad. Oh.
Yeah. And by the time he came of age, they had already moved to the Stockyards district on the south side, where many other immigrants took shelter. And remember, this is not like, they're not moving to, you know, a nice, fancy, gated community after this. They go from bad to worse.
To a place called the Stockyards.
Yeah. Which I think is what the meatpacking district ends up being, essentially.
Yeah. Stockyards are literally where they keep the cows, which is, shout out to the New York episode.
Yeah. And lots of cows.
Yeah.
And it was on these rough streets that James grew up, watching his mother slowly die from the humiliation and the trauma.
It makes me so mad and so sad.
You should be.
Okay.
And suffice it to say, permission granted to be so mad and so sad.
I've been waiting.
Finally. Suffice it to say, this left more than just an impression on James, and he was determined to change the association.
Life, right? It probably shaped 100%. His whole life.
Yeah. And he's basically like determined to change the name of O'Leary.
Oh, okay.
And so he studied hard. He went to law school, came back to Chicago, became a community organizer, ran for Senate, and then eventually became the president of the United States of America.
Obama. He's ancient.
Yeah. No, just kidding. James dropped out of school and went to work for local bookies.
Oh, hell yeah. That's a Hannah Hillam track right there.
Yeah.
Except not the bookie part.
Basically, he's just like, apparently he was pretty sharp. He was a smart kid.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, there's not a lot of opportunities for kids in the meatpacking district, like growing up in like impoverished with like a stain on their family name. But James eventually earns the moniker. Yeah,
did
go ahead.
Other immigrants, did their community also believe that she had done it? Or were they more on her side? Or you don't really know?
Do not have an answer for that. Okay. I don't know. I didn't see anything about that I did not see anything about that in the reading I came across, but I don't know.
I could easily see them being like, oh, come on. Even if they don't believe it, she still brought an unfavorable light on them.
Unlike the Irish in general.
You know, yes, and like Irish immigrants in general. Like I feel like the community would be like, I don't know. I don't know.
I could see it going the other way too, of the Irish being like, we're all together.
Right.
And, we're screw these people. We'll take care of our own.
Right.
I don't know. I honestly have no idea.
Interesting.
That's a good, interesting question, though. I wish there was a way to know that. It doesn't seem like there is.
That's okay.
Because reporters were too busy just writing fake news about her and then, not caring about it afterwards. So
Nope.
There's no news article about that if I saw one. Anyway, so James earns the moniker eventually Big Jim.
Yeah, he did. I love Big Jim.
He's a big dude, sharp, and apparently he's really good at being a bookie and like taking bets or whatever.
Nice.
And he tries to branch off on his own independent contracting bookie while like still a teenager.
Whoa.
Which sort of like works but doesn't really know. But he knows his way around and he gets a reputation for being good at what he does.
Nice.
And eventually, Big Jim was able to leave the stockyards in 1892.
Hey, nice.
And he opened a saloon bar that included Turkish baths.
Yeah, he did.
A restaurant.
Whoa.
A billiard room and a bowling alley.
Oh, in the 1800s? How old are bowling
turn of the
alleys?
century.
Oh, I guess they're
that's
pretty
a good
old,
question.
aren't they? I feel like because they used to do like lawn bowling or whatever in England.
Yeah. Here's this fun newspaper picture showing him. He's a little bit older here, but you can see, Big Jim.
Oh, look at him.
Sorry, it's like loading really slow.
Oh, whoa.
He looks like Howard Taft or something.
He does. He looks like a president.
Exactly. Jim O'Leary, Chicago's King of Chance.
Chance. What a cool name. I love that, dude.
And here is the saloon. Here's O'Leary's saloon.
Oh, yeah. Look at that's a saloon. That's a classic saloon.
Yeah, classic old school Chicago.
Oh, cool.
It's awesome.
Schlitz, lager beer, O'Leary's. That's like a good Irish pub in America.
Exactly. So anyway, he's running this business, right?
Good for him.
And so cue the Jeffersons theme song. He's moving on up. He's
Nice.
part of yeah. And now with the reputation of being a legitimate entrepreneur, Big Jim quickly became one of the leading gamblers in Chicago, willing to take bets on anything from presidential candidates to the changes in the weather.
That's bold.
Yeah.
That's insane. Why would you do that? The weather is
I don't
completely
know.
unpredictable. Okay, whatever. This was
Dude's
long
living
ago.
the dream.
He's
living the dream.
He
He's
feels
doing
confident
it.
enough to be like, it's not going to rain. Let's bet on it.
And also, interestingly, he gained a reputation for very fair dealing.
Hey, an honest gambler.
An honest gambler. So until this point, I assume that I assume some of this is just growing up poor and doing whatever you can to make it out.
Yeah.
Kind of shit, and just being a
Hustler
bookie.
mindset. You gotta do whatever you can.
You gotta do whatever you can. But being known as a super fair marquee gambler in Chicago, of all places, that seems like childhood trauma manifesting in some weird pathology.
Yeah, like I need everyone to like me because I grew up in an isolated and my mom was hated by everybody. I don't know.
There's
something going on.
Such a strange thing to me to just be like, he's a really honest gambler.
Yeah. He's like, I'm doing something illegal, but I'm the most honest one here.
I'm the most honest person doing illegal things. Chicago, yeah. Chicago Alderman Vice Lord Michael Hinky Dink Kenna.
No,
which is another incredible name.
Hinky Dink. Old man Hinky Dink. Wait, that's his nickname, right?
Yes, Michael. His name is Michael Kenna. He's the Chicago Alderman Vice Lord, but his nickname was Hinky Dink.
Hinky Dink and Peg Leg.
Hinky Dink. He loved Big Jim. He said of Big Jim, he was a square shooter. Big Jim never welched on a bet. He was a good loser, and his patrons had confidence in him that he would always pay off, even if he lost.
Welched on a bet? That saying comes from the English, saying that the Welsh are liars.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I'd never even put two and two together.
That means you are a lying Welshman. So anyway.
Interesting.
That
there's
was
a term. Yeah, the term in America is, we won't say because it's gross, but we have one of those too.
Yeah, we do, don't we?
Apologies. I didn't know that that's what that was. But anyway, I'm quoting him, so whatever.
Yeah,
but yes.
It's not like... It's more like an interesting, like, oh, did you know?
It's funny
don't
that
say it in Wales.
Right. No, it's also interesting that they would say that in Chicago, which is like a term from the English. It's interesting. It came across the ocean and all the way into the Midwest, and then people are using terms that don't even apply to anything.
I don't even think they know... I don't think they like associate it with the Welsh.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Welsh.
I don't think they even know. Yeah, it's abstract to them. It's interesting.
Well, there also were a ton of Welsh immigrants in the Midwest.
Sure.
Like,
But I mean,
maybe...
I don't necessarily think that, a man named Hinky Dink was as informed.
How does he like it? This guy always hinky dinks on his promises.
That's true. I mean, honestly, it works perfectly. Yeah. Maybe we should start using that. Be like, oh, you're going to hinky dink now?
Don't hinky dink me.
Don't hinky dink me.
It's like a good filler word. I don't know. It could mean anything.
Hinky dink. Rewriting the narrative, you guys. We're taking it back.
Hinky dink Hillam.
Hannah Hinky Dink Hillam.
Woo!
Perfect.
Okay.
You should put that on a business card. Anyway, and now for my favorite part. On top of all of that, Big Jim astonishingly refused to bribe the cops.
Well, yeah, ACAB,
Exactly.
Even though they were all Irish.
But here's my question. How can you even be a gambling kingpin in turn of the century Chicago without paying off the cops?
I don't know.
I feel like that's illegal somehow.
They liked him enough to be like, well, they didn't. Okay.
The way you do it is by having a secret casino, of course.
Yeah, there we go. I love Big Jim.
And Big Jim, of course, never forgot his roots. After initially purchasing the saloon, he also posted detailed racetrack results and other betting information back home near the entrance to the stockyards, and secretly turned the back of his legitimate saloon into a booking parlor.
This guy's amazing.
Oh, it gets even better. Big Jim made a maze.
I really do. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
no, go ahead.
That this is because his mom was ostracized.
Exactly.
That's all what it comes from. It's like he has to prove himself in absolutely every way.
Yep.
And if he doesn't, he has to outrun his name. And,
exactly.
Anyway.
I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, that's the whole reason I wanted to. That's why I was like, this man's life is interesting because it's set up by this tragedy, and it's so interesting the way that it manifests in this totally different way.
Yeah.
Usually what you might hear is somebody being like, I went to law school because I had to legit, but he's basically just like, I don't trust any of these systems.
No.
These people can all eat shit.
Look what they did to my family also.
Yeah.
They're not going to let me into any of those systems anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make my fortune doing illegal stuff, but being the best at it.
But also ACAB, to the point where to not bribe cops at this time
Insane.
it's like mind-boggling. Like every gangster at this point.
The gangsters and the cops were it was just, Chicago was nuts.
Some might even say that the cops were the gangsters.
Hot take.
Yeah, but that's like his red line. He's just like, absolutely not. I will not pay a cop a single cent.
Love him.
Love him. So Big Jim made a maze of secret rooms where his gambling operations were conducted in a supposedly vacant building next door, protected by constructing iron and zinc layered oak front doors, which were, quote, fireproof, bomb-proof, and police-proof. And of course, because I need to give you all the dopamine, here's a drawing of it.
Give me it. Give me that. Oh, this is amazing. Oh, look at that. This is okay, so it's like this. It almost looks like one of those books where they'd do a cutaway of a ship.
Yeah.
Do you remember those cartoons, and you could see and they'd always throw in little details, or the castle one where you could see someone being beheaded. Anyway. So this just looks like a cutaway of this underground lair almost. And there's a roulette. Oh, there's the roulette. Oh, this is so cool. It's a trap door on the third floor with a ladder that can be drawn up, and you can go all the way down to this alleyway down below.
Fake chimney with a ladder inside leading to basement.
Oh, this is so cool.
There's bookkeepers, a switchboard.
Vestibule for bookies and small gambling. Who drew this?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'm assuming it's somebody for the paper that this was published in.
Some cartoonist that they were like, have fun.
It's awesome.
Yeah, this is incredible.
It's a lot of fun.
This is so cool.
Isn't it?
You're right. The dopamine hit quick. Yeah.
Of course, Big Jim's saloon housed only law-abiding activities and was internally separated from the building next door by the aforementioned police-proof doors.
Love it.
Almost kind of like an external metaphor for his entire life of trying to maintain these two identities.
Yes.
It manifests into these two weird buildings.
Acceptable to society and also keeping his independence. I don't know, interesting.
It's fascinating. And of course, the cops harassed him nonstop, like they did everybody.
Of course.
And
literally their job.
they're never really able to like get him on anything, but they do just keep hassling him. And eventually he got so annoyed by their constant intervention that he bought a steamship to run illegal gambling on Lake Michigan called the City of Trappers.
Oh, hero. Let's see this steamship. Do you have a picture?
Of course.
Oh yeah. That's a steam. Oh, it's called the City of Trappers. So it's like the name of the steamship. Look at that.
Which I know you still haven't watched Step Brothers, but literally one of my favorite lines of that movie is where he goes, "Listen, Dad, we're men, okay? And that means something. We go on riverboat gambling trips and we shit with the door open. We're men. That's what we do." So the line of riverboat gambling trips is like, it's been in my mind for like 15 years now. And so every time I see riverboat gambling, it always cracks me up. Yeah.
I saw some meme today that was like, men need to go back to doing what they do best, which is fix small mechanical things and get really into the war, reading about war. And then that's just could fit in there too.
Riverboat gambling trips.
Riverboat gambling. Stop being fascists. Get back on that boat and gamble your money away.
Exactly. But anyway, it doesn't last for that long. I think it's like less than a year because the cops are basically like, "Excuse me, no."
We can see the boat.
Yeah, exactly.
We know what you're doing.
Kept cock blocking him, so he's just like lame.
International waters. This is Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
This is part of it. Oh.
But he's like, whatever, eat shit.
Yeah.
At one point in 1906, Big Jim, along with a group of investors, converted a 10-acre picnic grove into an amusement park at Halstead and 52nd Street named Luna Park.
Luna Park? Wait.
Yeah.
Isn't that in New York? Oh, I think there's a bunch of Luna Parks.
Yeah. But it was like an amusement park for a period of time, and then it sold to somebody else. And then a bunch of other crazy Chicago gambling wars and shit happen, and it's too much to get into all that. But the main point, despite numerous raids by police, he was found guilty of gambling only one time during his 30-plus year career.
This is why you need to be a good person.
Yeah.
Because when you're a good person to the people who are using you for illegal stuff, they won't turn you in.
Exactly. Honest crook, as they would say.
Yeah.
There is, however, one possible stain that has not been proven. Maybe. Big Jim was strongly suspected of involvement in one of the most infamous murders in Chicago criminal history, the death of mob boss James Colosimo, but never proven. I didn't look into it. Again, it's 10 more tabs. I had to exercise self-control and restraint.
Am I too on the side of this guy? I'm having a moment where I'm like, I am rooting for a... Anyway.
So eventually...
Everything's upside down.
Nothing matters. On January 23rd, 1925, Big Jim finally succumbed and died of natural causes at the age of 56.
Oh.
Clever and honest, quote unquote, to the end, his entire estate was on the books, valued at only $10,200.
What? Why? Where's all the money? Did he put it somewhere else?
Who knows? But that's basically like where it ended. So at some point before the end of his life, he was interviewed, and Big Jim shared his philosophy of life. And this is the quote.
Okay.
There are three kinds of people in this world: gamblers, burglars, and beggars.
Oh.
Nearly everybody gambles. Sometimes it's with money. Sometimes it's with time. Sometimes it's with jobs. Nearly every fellow is willing to take a chance. Other folks are burglars. They make their lives by stealing. The second story man, the safecracker, and the dip are not the only burglars. You'll find a lot of others in offices in the loop. A fellow that won't gamble or steal is a beggar. End quote.
That sums it up.
Yeah.
That sums it up. I mean, that's how he lived.
To the end.
Whoa.
Anyway, big love for Big Jim. I just love that he was basically like, you stain my family name, eat shit, ACAB.
I'm going to turn this city inside out with my gambling and my saloons and my riverboats and my hatred for the cops. Dude, that guy's a legend.
Riverboat gambling trips.
I wonder what happened to the other kids. What did they do?
Oh, there was like that's a whole other thing you could read into where like it just got complicated.
Oh, sad or?
Some of it's sad. I think one person shot somebody else. There was like some mistress involved. Again, it wasn't the point of the tab necessarily, but
Just
I think
casually drop like so much gossip. Like, someone
goss.
shot somebody else. So wait, did he ever have kids?
I believe he did have a family. Yeah, Big Jim did, and he was married. So there's some conspiracies that like I think it's like his wife knew somebody that was like the police chief or something along those lines. I'm not sure. Again,
Maybe
this
his
is all
wife
sort of
paid off the cops and he didn't.
maybe, we don't know.
Yeah.
But as far as his reputation, it was like even 100 years later, people were like, no, Big Jim was great. He basically like never,
Wow.
he always paid and he always was like a professional about it, whatever.
He never hinky dinked on his promises.
Yeah, exactly. He never hinky dinked on his promises. But the moral of this story that I thought was interesting is that there are consequences in this, particularly in this moment of like, you can say some shit about somebody and literally destroy someone's life.
Completely.
And completely ruin it. And it's interesting that people will deal with that trauma in different ways. You're not just affecting one person, you're also affecting generations of people after that.
It's true. Families.
Yeah.
The generational aspect of it is really interesting. Like living down, like, blaming the son for his father's sins kind of thing, where it's like, how that doesn't really happen as much anymore, does it? I don't know. Like if someone's a brutal murderer, we usually have oh yeah, it sucks that kid's dad's a murderer. We don't judge the kids anymore. I think less so. That was a thing back then. A family name was a thing. You couldn't just change it. It would be like more dishonorable to change it than to like reinvent it.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah. But I just thought it was cool. I was like, of all the ways that he could have gone, I thought it was interesting that he just was like
Chicago's nicest gangster.
Middle finger to the just absolute middle finger. I had never heard of a mobster, or not really a mobster, but like a gambler or anybody involved in like illicit kind of illegal things being like, yeah, I'm not paying off the cops. It'd be like, I feel like you'd immediately get killed.
How did he do that? I wonder if somebody else had to be involved.
Yeah, there had to be something like maybe he was paying off a gangster or something. I don't know. There's nothing officially that I could find. Yeah. But
it's all politics. Like maybe another gangster was, didn't want him to be taken out. And so he paid out, it's all this like internal clan politics kind of thing.
You never know whose foot you're stepping on. And it's so strange. But anyway, I tried to not overdo it this week like I have been doing for the past couple ones. So I tried to make this one a lot more concise and to the point. That was
concise. And as I'm like probing for more questions, like, tell me about his family. What did his siblings do? It's funny because I also went into mine being like, I'm going to keep this chill. And so this might be a shorter episode, but
great.
I can never.
Anyway, that's my tab. What is your tab? What do you have for us this week?
It sounds like you were being held at gunpoint by saying that.
Well, I always have to do like a split of just being like, and now we're transitioning into Hannah's tab.
Okay, so mine is, of course, this is classic. I thought I was going to do something else, and then I found something more interesting inside that old tab and then went to a new one. So
wow,
I got
never done that before.
No, this is not the entire show premise. This all started with an Atlas Obscura article called The Right to Light, which it's all this old English law, and I was like, I can't do something else about England. So it's old English law where people have the right to have light in their windows because that was important. You couldn't build a house in front of it.
I see.
Spite.
Okay.
And then I got reading about spite houses. And I'm probably going to go into those at some point.
Oh, I love it.
Don't worry. I'm not talking about spite houses, but I am talking about spite.
No. Okay, good.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get you excited. I'm just telling you the little trail I went on. Spite houses?
Spite is like our theme today.
I will come back to the spite houses. Don't you worry.
Good.
But then I saw this other article that it was like, other things that were funny and spiteful. And it was this one, and I'll get into exactly the title in just a minute. But as you know, there have been many famous feuds throughout history. The Hatfields and McCoys, Michigan and Ohio State, as we found out on multiple episodes that they all hate each other so much.
The Persians and the Greeks.
I wasn't going to bring that into it, but I'm glad you did. I had it written down first, then I was like,
too on the nose.
Persians and the Greeks, the Persians and the Romans.
Persians and everybody, really.
The Persians and everyone.
Persians in the world.
And it's funny that you say that, because we'll get there. So, Joan Crawford and is it Betty Davis or Bet Davis?
Betty Davis.
Betty Davis. And, of course, Mark Twain and literally everyone he met.
God, love Mark Twain so much.
He is... Okay, this is not even about him in what he usually does. It's about the longest running feud he had. Okay.
Love it.
So Samuel Clemens, aka Mark Twain.
Longhorn.
Samuel Longhorn Clemens.
I always love that middle name.
I know. Samuel L. Clemens,
It's made
SLC.
up, but, yeah.
He made it up?
I thought so. I might be misquoting. I swear he made up Longhorn.
Samuel
Did I make that
Hinky Dink Clemens.
up?
AKA Mark Twain, for those of you who somehow don't know who he is. He was an American author, described as the greatest humorist the U.S. has ever produced, and also the father of American literature. And we've all read his books. He also loved pushing things to the absolute limit at the expense of everyone around him.
Yeah. Yep.
His friend William Dean Howell said, he liked beyond all things to push an affair to the bitter end. Mm-hmm. And the end was never too bitter unless it brought grief or harm to another. So this dude loved nothing more than writing, making people laugh, and picking fights. And he excelled at all three. And he was pretty much an 1800s shit poster. Just he would write into the papers and be like, here's what I hate this week, pretty much, like pick on all these different authors. His friends would turn to enemies. He had so many enemies that he self-proclaimed these are my enemies. He'd split hairs.
I'm going to say, like, is he even like really a shit poster by today's standards of what a shit poster is?
He's a little higher. He's a little level up on that because
I feel like a shit poster doesn't believe in like anything, but like Mark Twain was a pretty he believed in things very deeply.
Deep-rooted beliefs to the point where he alienated a lot of people with his deep-rooted beliefs. But here's the thing about him is that he would go back on some of those. Like, toward the end of his life, he was like, oh yeah, actually, I don't agree with what I used to say. So he's not just like this stubborn curmudgeon, you know.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Mark Twain was brilliant.
There's genius. And there's the things I've read a bunch of his letters, and there's a little bit of familiarity in there in that I tend to just be like, this is what I think about this. And then I'm like, oh.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't have told that to a room of people.
This is why you and I have a text thread. Where we say the most horrific things to each other because I'm like, I need to get this out of my system immediately.
There was that one night in San Diego where we're like, we're really bad people. We were like turning into our worst selves.
Listen, that's what the group chat is for,
That's
guys.
What the group chat is for.
That's why all the memes about the group chats are always like people getting arrested, and they're like, when the group chat leaks.
So Mark Twain, our grumpy king, our grumpy, petty, genius king, he'd split hairs publicly very often by writing complaints into the paper about literally anyone and everything. Mm-hmm. And he has feuds between him and, insert contemporary author here. Drake. His rap about Drake burned, dude. It was so good. I hope he performs at the Super Bowl.
Biggie, Tupac, Twain.
All of them, Twain.
Yeah.
So his once best friend turned enemy, Bret Hart, another author.
Another wrestler, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I thought the Hart family the wrestling family. I was like, is this Bret? Like the Bret? No.
He was like, my great grandfather was Mark Twain's rival, so it manifested as me becoming a professional wrestler when I grew up.
Yeah, they were both authors and friends, and then they got in a fight over like a play they were both in and like money. And Mark Twain was like, I'm gonna ruin this man's life, and proceeded to
God bless him.
Bret tried to get a job, and Mark Twain wrote this like scathing letter about how he was like the most immoral person on earth and how he should never be allowed to get a job. Like, devastating. Even like years,
inside thoughts.
100%. Years after Bret Hart died, he still just was like, I hate that guy. Like at any chance, he'd be like, oh, that guy sucks. And he's like, he's long dead, dude.
Oh my God. As you said, I'm hearing a lot of myself in this. Yes.
Oh, I was like looking in the mirror sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I used to go on about Nirvana all the time. And then I was always like, they're overrated.
How much you love Nirvana? Oh, I see.
I was like, I don't care what you guys say. He sucks. They all suck. I don't care if he killed himself. Anyway, I lost
you lost some friends.
I alienated some rooms from saying those things. But I used to do that kind of stuff all the time where I would just be like, here's my insane take. I will not apologize. And then I don't know. I thought it was fine.
Old. You just get tired.
I don't do that anymore. I still have the insane takes. Don't get me wrong.
Personally, I think the social media landscape has burned me out from having takes on anything. Like I used to be a lot more comfortable being like, I hate this thing or
Me
that
too.
thing. And now I'm just sort of like, it just becomes like part of the sea of bullshit now.
Oh,
So it's
yeah.
like, it's not even interesting anymore.
I'm tired. I hate
Yeah.
a lot of things, but who cares? Doesn't
It burned
matter.
us out. And that's what they want you to do. They just want you to be tired and
Yep.
confused and just buy stuff. And
Save
then,
your hate for what matters.
yeah, this is what I always say is like, don't express, or if you're mad on the internet, someone's making money off of you, which
Yeah.
is why I try very hard to not do anything.
They want that.
Try not to post anything. That's what they want. So I'm like, the greatest thing I can do is to not give them that.
Yeah, that's
but
so
anyway.
true. Quiet resistance. But yeah, I think as growing older, I realized, hey, this isn't really how I like, have friends. Or
Until you and I were sat next to each other and we're like, oh, we talk about it. It's like, I hate this and this and this and this.
Worst. I was like, I found an outlet.
No, you found, you were a fire and you found a big batch of oxygen.
Oh, we're the oxygen to each other's toxic fires.
Yeah, we're just like, ugh, why would you wear a t-shirt that says this? Literally melted down one morning.
I remember that first thing in the morning in Emerald City. You were like, "Look at that T-shirt. I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna
explode.
I hate this. Why would they ever do that?" Whoa, whoa, whoa. The people next to us were like,
Upset.
"That was friendship ruining for some people, but friendship bonding for others."
Exactly.
He hated this dead friend. Speaking of dead people he hates, he had this like obsession with like Jane Austen in that he hated her so much. He hated her books, but he kept reading them. He would read them over and over. He would read her books. And then he would just be like, this rotting corpse of a lady, I hate her. I hate her stuff. I hate everything she did. And he'd read it again. He like, I can't figure it out. He like hate loved her. And one time he said, every time I read Pride and Prejudice, I want to dig her up and beat her over the skull with her own shin bone.
Wait, remind me, what year did Jane Austen die?
Oh, 1840.
Okay.
He was born after 1817. He was born after she died.
He was born after that. Yeah, Halley's Comet.
That's right. He's just never knew her. He never crossed paths with her. He just hated Pride and Prejudice.
Angry at somebody in the past.
Which is funny because we went, when I was on study abroad in Wales, we went to Bath for the day, and Bath is where Jane Austen lived or whatever, and everyone was like, we're going to go to the Jane Austen tea houses, and I fully said similar things to this.
You're like, I'm going to exhume her body and beat her with
pointless.
her own bone. Yeah.
Where's her grave? Take me to her grave. But I remember, like, I wanted to make sure everyone knew that I thought she was basic, and I didn't want to go to the tea houses. And here's the thing, no one cared what I said, and it made me
Nobody
even angrier.
does.
I was like, oh, they all are really enjoying themselves, and I'm not.
Damn it!
Anyway, he also famously said every woman in Salt Lake was hideous.
Oh, look at that. Bringing it back, making it personal.
This is always like, we always talked about this in Utah, like, oh, that time Mark Twain came here and insulted all of us. He said he... Sorry.
What an unnecessary diss. Oh my God. Dear
Literally.
Lord.
Yeah. So he was in Salt Lake for 2 days, made like a bunch
Mark
of
Twain,
enemies.
that's a bit much. That's not really like fun.
It's not cute anymore. It's
I was like, ew. Would have loved, he would have benefited greatly, like I said, from a group chat. If he had just had a group chat, if he had a friend that he could have said that to, he wouldn't have had to say it publicly. He could have just gotten it. It's like, when you have bad thoughts, they need to come out. It's like shitting or pissing. Like it needs to leave your body somehow.
And that's why we're friends, like you said earlier.
You need space plates.
Space plates, man.
Exactly.
Go listen to the episode where we have an AMA.
You need a space plates to be able to say terrible things that you don't mean.
You can talk all you want about Utah ladies and how ugly they are.
Does this mean that he thinks all the men in Utah are exceedingly handsome?
He thinks that they're all just taking one for the team.
Oh, ouch.
Anyway,
Marky.
All of these feuds,
pale
in comparison to Mark Twain's endless hatred for the United States Postal Service.
Oh, I knew about this. Yes.
He hated the USPS.
He did.
And I got deep into this.
Love it.
You already knew about this?
Oh. No. I mean, I don't know like all the details, but I know that he had like a feud with the USPS.
Here's the thing. It's a one-sided feud. The USPS was like, I don't know.
What?
What do you want from us?
What is even happening?
To, like, deliver letters. He's like, no, we'll not let that happen. He hated the USPS for 40 straight years.
Yeah.
He hated it more than he hated almost anything else. He spent just as much time writing angry complaints to the newspaper about the USPS as he did writing books. He hated
as they delivered it for him.
As they delivered, right. So it started, the first instance I can find of him hating the USPS was in 1867. And he was living in Nevada. And he had actually gone to Utah recently and going through like Nevada, writing Roughing It, the book. And he was kind of this like like degenerate, like absolute desert trash happening. And he went to look for a job with the senator of Nevada, William Stewart. And he showed up looking disheveled and sinister, as Stewart described it. And Twain had already written terrible things about this man in the paper. And Stewart was like, "What do you want? If you say anything about me, I'm suing you." And Mark Twain was like, no. I need a job.
Oh, hey, buddy. Hey, bestie.
But he has the gall to be like, yeah, I hate you, but will you give me a job?
Respect.
And Stewart was like, yeah, okay. It might be nice to have you on my side.
What's the worst that can happen?
What's the worst that can happen? I let him answer all my mail. Certainly someone wouldn't abuse that. So that's his job. He was his letter opener and mail answerer and his pretty much personal secretary.
How old is Twain at this time?
This is 1867. He's like in his 30s, 20s,
Okay.
30s. I'm guessing.
I think he's born in like the 1920s, right? Isn't that when Halley's Comet was?
The
1820s, yeah.
1835. So this was
35, sorry. Okay. So yeah, you said the 60s, so he's like in his 30s.
Yeah, he's in his 30s. So he's already well known enough.
Yeah.
He'd already gotten well known back in Connecticut or wherever he was from. Missouri? Yeah, whatever. So this guy, William Stewart, he was like, I'll even let you live in my like room and board that's near whatever. And
just inviting the Viper directly into his home.
Seriously. Oh, he learned real quick. So he was soon getting into trouble for smoking cigars in his bed late into the night. The landlady was like, you're gonna burn the house down. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I don't care.
I don't care.
And
not my house.
Not my house. It's the senator's house that kindly gave me a job.
You could get a new one. You're a senator. All you got to do is just put pressure on some like old folks home or like orphanage and just be like, right. Well, this is mine now.
It's easy.
Somebody brings in a pie with like laced with $1,000 bills. And they're just like, you could build the freeway this direction. And he's like, thank you very much. I don't know why he's Southern, but.
Foghorn Leghorn.
I do declare.
You cannot smoke cigars in your bed. So he
can't even smoke cigars. The woke has gone too far.
Woke has gone way too far. I can't lay in bed and smoke a huge cigar
as I fall asleep.
But the landlady would stay up until he went to sleep so she could make sure he put the cigar out because she was that worried about it burning to the ground. I'm not getting
paid enough for this shit.
So she's like, this guy?
I just dump a bucket of water on him and be like, I'm going to bed. Shut up. Write about me in the papers. I don't care.
I don't care anymore.
Yeah. And then he'd be like, oh, I respect her.
Exactly. So he would complain at his job about that government documents were too boring and lacking woodcuts. So there's
honestly.
Yeah. More pictures,
government documents are boring and they don't have any cool drawings on them.
So he would come in, right. He would come in late and leave early and then just complain about all the documents being boring. He would forge Stewart's signature without permission on tons of stuff. He would, when he came in late and left early, Stewart was like, hey, why are you doing that? And he's like, do you think I'm really going to work for $6 a day? So he's just like...
I just love that.
I love this man.
Sorry. Just like he's not just not a good employee. He's the world's worst employee.
Most fireable person.
Yeah.
Which really, I've been fired twice and I feel seen.
Yeah.
I didn't do this though. I just played Pokemon at work and they caught me.
I'm the opposite. I've never been fired because I'm too scared of disappointing my employer. So I've always been like, oh, I'll put in extra time. It's okay. Sure. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. There's a part of me that just can't even like find it in me to care. Like if
it's
I'm
not
doing
that I
something
care.
I don't
it's more of like a, yeah.
I'm like, well, I guess I'll put my entire livelihood in jeopardy.
There's I think it's the immigrant thing too, where like we cannot
you
tarnish
have to,
our
like,
name or our family name.
where you have to like really, it's like also being a woman, and I'm not trying to compare.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just saying like within
No,
like
you're
a
relating. I
professional
understand.
field, you have to do everything right, because one mistake is going to look bad for everyone.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, so he would respond to his mail just with no, he would say whatever he wanted. He would snarky say just like no, or like
one word answers,
or just like big long intense.
Your mortgage is due. No.
Or maybe don't. Like one time, this Nevada silver mine requested a post office be built in their mining town, and Mark Twain was like, "Absolutely not. You're not. You want a post office? You bunch of criminals." Pretty much was like, miners can't even read. Why would you want letters? He responded and said, what the mischief do you want with a post office? If any letters came there, you wouldn't read them, or you couldn't read them. No, don't bother about a post office. What you want is a nice jail. And then, sincerely, William Stewart. And William Stewart was like, bro,
excuse me?
You can't do this.
You're the worst ghostwriter I've ever had.
You've ruined my life. He really did say, like, you have ruined my career.
This is the power of being funny, though. If you're funny, people sort of like, you laugh about it.
You laugh about it. You kind of coast over things, and then becomes America's most beloved author.
Mm-hmm. To this day.
And Mark Twain wrote later, it seemed as if I could not do anything without getting myself into trouble. It's like, bro, you were
a man who is so perceptive yet cannot.
You were straight
point
up
it inward,
clouding, like you were just not even listening. Anyway, from then on, he had a burning vendetta against the post office and anything bureaucratic. I don't think it was just the post office. I think it was just any government crap that, bureaucracy. He hated it. And for the next year, he complained publicly about the USPS so much that a U.S. senator was like, hey, why don't you become the postmaster general in your city and you fix it yourself? And Mark Twain said, okay. He genuinely looked into being the postmaster general of San Francisco. He even secured the support from a California Supreme Court judge and a bunch of like high-ups. They were like, yeah, we can, that sounds good. Have this famous author be our postmaster general. It'd
be great for marketing.
And the Supreme Court judge was like, oh yeah, let's see where this goes. This guy hates us. And according to a letter to his friend and eventual enemy and publisher, Elisha Bliss, he said he even had the support of some important men. But just like Dennis Reynolds running for comptroller of Philadelphia, Twain realized that being the postmaster general of San Francisco was a whole lot more work than he was willing to do. And if he did it, he wouldn't have any time to write a book. Quote, I have made a stupid blunder.
That's the thing. If you get a day job, you got to make sure you got enough energy left so that you can work on your creative project when you're not making money.
So the complaints about the USPS continued for almost a decade, though not as much as he was really deep into writing at this point. The anger flared up again, though. In 1879, 10 years later, he received an envelope in the mail from the government announcing that the post office was now requiring much more detail when writing addresses. You used to be able to just write the name and the city, and the post
it's crazy.
Would just be like, oh, I'm going to,
figure it out.
I
know where Billy Bob lives over in New Jersey.
Or take it to the town hall and be like, I don't know. Or also I don't think they would take it to houses as often. They would take it to the post office.
And then you just to go into town to pick it up or whatever. Yeah, that's right.
And this incensed Mark Twain.
I have to spend 5 more seconds when I letter my letters.
Literally what his argument was. He said it's a waste of time. It's a waste of ink. And somehow, if I could get paid for writing each of these extra words on these envelopes, like I do for my books, I'd be wealthy.
Just remember, kids, don't do work for free.
Never.
Get paid for everything.
And he said, even the dead people in Boston and New York could tell a letter carrier how to find those prominent houses. And he calls the decree un-American and insulting. So, of course, what does he do? He complains to the paper about it, calling out the current Postmaster General, David Key. He hates David Key. He hates him so much. So, David Key's secretary is informed of this thing in the paper. They're like, hey, by the way, some this famous author is complaining
This guy.
about. And David Key was like, I don't have any time for this. Secretary, will you write him back and explain why we're doing this?
Like, I'm trying to solve real problems here, not like a PR issue.
We cannot find houses. We need someone to write an address. So a while later, he receives a response from David Key's office. Mark Twain does. On the front was like this official stamp that was like, mark of the USPS, which pissed him off for some reason, as well as like a warning that you'll get a penalty of $300 if you use this envelope for anything other than the official business. And in it was a leaflet explaining the changes and why they were important, and a letter of retort from Key's private secretary, Thomas Kirby. He went off the rails, dude.
That was it. That pushed him over the edge.
He was like, oh, you can't even write me yourself, David Keyes? This made him angry, and what followed was several correspondences between him and the secretary, all of which Twain had published in the paper as well for everyone to read. Because dude knew how to sell papers. He knew how to make money.
Yeah, it's true.
So in his response to the secretary, Secretary Kirby, Twain was like, hey, idiot, I wasn't talking to you. I was writing to the USPS, and you need to stay in your lane and shut your mouth because this doesn't concern you. You're too young and inexperienced to understand anything that's going on. And the fact that he sent his secretary to write this instead of him is, cowardly, blah, 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 blah. He's like, you're not the dog, you're the dog's tail that wags.
Whoa.
You're not the molasses, you're the spout that it comes out of. And just rips him a new one for like 7 paragraphs. And he finishes it by being like, oh, and you wrote this to me from official document, you need to pay the $300 because this has nothing to do with what, like, pretty much like, if you write me again, I'm taking you to court for you misusing government mailing envelopes. Like, full on Karen'd it. Like,
yeah.
And Kirby responded with actually some really funny retorts.
Oh, nice.
Because at one point, Mark Twain was like, I'm going to send this with one of my 11 secretaries to take to you. None of my secretaries are there for any reason but to make me look good or whatever. And anyway, Kirby writes some good stuff back. And after this, he starts writing his letters. He starts addressing his letters, not with addresses, but with long, detailed descriptions of the recipient. So, for example, he wrote to his friend Mr. C.M. Underhill, who it says to Mr. C.M. Underhill, who is in the coal business in one of those streets there, and is very respectably connected, both by marriage and general descent, and is a tall man, and old, but without any gray hair, and used to be handsome. Buffalo, New York, from Mark Twain. P.S. A little bald on the top of his head. So
amazing.
First of all, imagine being the postman and being like, what the?
I'm not paid enough for this shit.
And then imagine being Mr. Underhill and being like, you just ripped
bald
me apart.
on the back, yeah.
And this guy wasn't even his friend. He was like this guy for business he went to for like coal mining or something.
He's all used to be handsome and then bald on top of the head?
Bald on top. At least he said I'm from a good family, but...
Jesus, yeah.
And that wasn't the only instance of that. He would do that with a lot of people where he's like, fine, I'm not going to do the address. I'm going to make your life somehow harder. And so continues for the next couple decades, just more hate towards USPS. Every new thing they came out with, he was like, I hate this. Hate stamps. Hate stamps so much. He was like,
This is really putting a lot of my life into perspective. I'm like, maybe I need to calm down a little bit.
Maybe well, think of what he could have written if he hadn't have been so
right. That's what I'm saying. Or
how much he hates
you and I have talked about this often. Is that like if you didn't have so much hate, would you have been motivated to write something else?
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's true. He could have been a completely different kind of author. I think this is. Yeah. I think this comes with being funny. I genuinely believe this.
You think a lot of this is just him like thinking it's just gags left and right?
No, I think it's him genuinely being angry, and the only way he knows how to express that is through like
making
jabs and witty responses.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
speaking from experience,
is such an interesting fixation, though.
That's the thing. It's like there's so many other things that are way worse
to be mad about at that time. Yeah,
he was also mad about slavery. Didn't like that. But
famously.
He didn't write to the papers for 40 years about it. He like this.
I wonder if this is just a warm up to him. Like he's just like,
That's
I'm gonna
what he
get up in the
thought.
morning and like have a coffee, and he's
Write
just
a
like,
hate
I'm gonna
letter
write
to
my
the-
hate letter just to
post
get going. You know, like just like a sketch in the morning. Just like, I bet, especially if you do it for 40 years, I bet you he just does this in his sleep while he's smoking a cigarette.
Oh, yeah.
It's a way for him to wind down or like wind up. I bet you that's probably what it is.
I think it's where he puts his unassigned rage that we always talk about having, where it's got to go somewhere, and it's not going to his kids or wife. That's nice.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I bet you
Yeah.
it's, but I think like it sounds probably, I'm totally guessing here and projecting, but I'm like, I wonder if it's just like the way that you would just send off a tweet or something and getting mad. Like you think that much about it. It's like, that's probably just like, cause if you're as prolific as he was,
Oh, yeah.
right, for that many years, he probably just like, he's not even thinking if this matters.
Dude wrote
like,
all day, every day for his
right,
whole
all
life.
day, every day.
Yeah.
So what's like another like whatever 100-word letter
Right.
to the
To
like if
some
you're just
secretary.
doing that exactly, he's just like, I don't care. Like this is probably one of like 50 other rivalries and like pieces that he's working on, right? So he's like, I can't even keep track. I didn't realize I've been writing hate letter for 40 years.
Burning the bridge with his publisher. Like literally at the time he was also like, screw you, can't believe my books aren't selling. I'm going to write to the post office now. Like, just, I don't know.
Just as like a way to like winding down.
Relax,
be like, I've been fighting the publisher all day. I'm just going to fight with the post office as a treat, as a wind down.
It does give you dopamine, though, you know?
That's what I'm saying. Listen, every night you guys turn off your phones, switch off the blue light so it goes to like warm mode for evenings. Put your phone down, write a letter to the post office being mad about it. Watch as your mental health improves.
It will. You know what? The post office, he would hate it today. He would hate it. So he pulled out this thing. He was like, back in my day, he even did this at one point. He's like,
back in my day,
we didn't have stamps. We had, all we did was bring some money to the post office and pay them. And that's all you had to do. What are these stamps? Like, well, just want to take the middleman. He hated stamps.
I mean, the stamps are really annoying.
Yeah,
I wish I could just like send it and then not have to do like
Can I do like a subscript? No, that doesn't make sense. But they're cool looking. Stamps are fun. So, dude hates stamps, and he says he became super anti-British when he realized that they
now
invented
you're talking.
stamps.
Yeah.
He was like, the British invented stamps? Absolutely not. Hate them. Hate the British.
Out of all the things you could be mad about the British, it's for them for inventing stamps.
This was literally the height of the British Empire, and he's like,
listen,
stamps? No.
Doesn't matter how we got here. All that matters is that you're here. You're under the tent with us.
We're all here together. So he found out in 1907 that sending letters to England would cost £1 a letter. And he was, at first I was like, £1?
That seems like a lot.
It's £100 in today's money.
Yeah.
And so of course he went insane. I would have lost my mind. And he was like, this is downright robbery. This is extortion at its the highest degree, and wrote into all these different papers. And he, so angry. And he's like, the British don't do anything right, but they do this right. They don't charge this much money for a letter. And he died 3 years after that. It's probably still just super mad about the Postal Service.
That's what killed him. It was a broken heart.
He had to pay a whole $1 to send something to England. Ugh. Died right then and there.
Yeah.
So the best part.
Yeah.
Maybe the worst. I don't know. In 1940, the USPS released a commemorative stamp.
Mark Twain stamp. Yeah. Okay. I was going to say.
It's most
the irony.
Hated it. And in 2011, they released another one, but put him on a forever stamp this time, which ironically, the forever stamp only works domestically. And it would have royally pissed him off if he knew that he had to add 2 more forever stamps to his post to England.
I love it.
Anyway, I also went down this huge rabbit hole of just reading some of his letters, his retorts to people. Mm-hmm. And can I share one of the funnier ones I found? Other people he hated were snake oil salesmen. He was like, he would have been so anti-vaxxers. Like, if, like, because I guess he'd lost a couple kids, like, young. Mm-hmm. And so all these people that would sell like literal like snake oil, he would write them these letters, just eviscerating them. He said, "You're an insolvable puzzle to me." This is to a snake oil salesman.
You are exhausting.
Mark Twain, you are exhausting.
Mark Twain is exhausting.
The handwriting is good and exhibits considerable character. and there are even traces of intelligence in what you say, yet the letter and the accompanying advertisements profess to be the work of the same hand. Anyway, he pretty much goes on to be like, you are an idiot to the 33rd degree. Yeah.
That's his insult, like for the ages.
Yeah,
that's the takedown.
You can't even write good.
Right, good.
He calls him an idiot to the 33rd degree, and a scion of an ancestral procession of idiots stretching back to the missing link.
That means you're an Illuminati idiot because you're up to the 33rd degree.
Oh,
or I'm sorry, Freemason, not Illuminati. Yeah,
oh, there's so many different societies.
33rd degree Mason is like the top one or whatever. I wonder if that's what that's a reference to.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, now I gotta go look that up.
Freemasons.
I don't like. There's no such thing as a free handout. That's what I think of whenever someone says Freemason. I'm like, oh, it's free.
Mason? How much is your
like,
masoning
cost?
Masons
for free?
Yeah. No thanks. I work for my Masons.
I work for my masonry.
I don't need a government handout.
I work for my
not
weird
on welfare.
Mason.
Yeah.
I'm not
not on Mason welfare.
Miss O'Leary welfare queen. I'm not. I work for my masonry. What's it?
Masonry. Yeah, I believe.
Oh, whatever. Right. So he says that he's just puzzled by how someone with such good handwriting could write such stupid stuff. Mm-hmm. And he's like,
People say the same about me.
Same. Or they say like, wow, I could do this. Well,
yeah.
You should do it then. He says, I'll get over this, pretty much. But I don't think you ever will because you're evil. And he says, I shall probably even be praying for you. While there is yet time, I hasten to wish that you may take a dose of your own poison by mistake and enter swiftly into the damnation which you and all other patent medicine assassins have so remorselessly earned and do so richly deserve. Adieu, 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 Mark Twain.
Yes.
And while I was looking through all these letters, of course...
You would have hated Goop. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Would have hated her. Ooh, cage match between Gwyneth Paltrow and Mark Twain. Snap her in half. What?
Doesn't take much to snap Gwyneth Paltrow in half.
No. She just drinks bone broth. Anyway.
That's what I'm saying. Her bones are brittle from drinking like alkaline water with like lemon in it, which apparently cancels it out anyway. So people are like, you're just an idiot. You're just drinking tap water. That's all you're doing.
Right.
Anyway,
you're not doing anything. You're just doing what we usually do, which is drink water.
Yeah.
We're getting angry.
Good.
So I'm sad I couldn't focus on any of his. Here's the thing about Mark Twain is he was a difficult and exhausting person to know. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. He was also genius, and he also really cherished his friendships that did last. So he cherished his wife and his kids. He's a family man, loyal, good man. Just hated the United States Postal Service.
Here's the thing. We hate the things we hate, but we really love the things that we love.
How come I saw myself in this?
Because you too are a genius writer and voice of a generation and a country. That's it. It's that simple.
That's a good one. I'm the next Mark Twain. No,
you're not the next Mark Twain. You're the first Hannah Hillam.
Oh, did you just say Hannah Hillman?
You're the first Hannah Hillman.
No. So fun little fact. I was looking around through some of his letters, and I see something that catches my eye that says Shah on it.
Oh.
And I was like, is this about to link to Persia?
Of course.
Of course. Dude, Mark Twain loved Persia. Loved it.
How did I not know this?
I don't know. He loved it. He was well-versed in Persian poetry. Mm-hmm. He would write highly about, like, their culture, and he was friends with the Shah's grandkids.
Interesting.
And they'd hang out.
This is the Shah, meaning like at this time this was Reza Shah. That would have been turned the century of 1900s.
Yes, this was
the Shah that was overthrown in the 70s. This would have been his father.
His father.
Yeah.
Yes. Or the one right before it. I can't remember when he was hanging out with the Shah's grandkids, but he visited Persia, Iran. He was like really up to date. It was fascinating. And I guess Huck Finn is super popular in Iran even now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
I didn't know that. I mean, not that I grew up in Iran, but I just hadn't heard that. That's interesting.
It's one of the most published American books in Iran. They love it.
I guess Huck Finn is no. Huck Finn, not Tom Sawyer.
Huck Finn.
Okay. I was going to say if it was Tom Sawyer, Tom Sawyer's really good at getting other people to do work while he hangs out, which is a classic Persian trait. But
Wait, what? Really?
painting the fence white, you know, the whole thing.
Oh, right. You're right.
I was like, that's classic Persian style management. But I don't know, actually. I wonder why Huck Finn is so popular. It's interesting.
Well, they loved him.
Yeah.
And it was first translated into Farsi in 1949.
I mean, again, holds a death feud for his entire life. Really just digs his heels in. Very funny.
Honorary Persian, right there.
Loves the people that he loves. Hates the people that he hates. Very gracious to the people that are important to him. I mean, like, yeah.
It tracks.
That tracks. He checks all the boxes. Yeah. Mark Twain, one of us.
Well, he only had wonderful things to say.
Yeah. Also, I imagine just insanely angry when people would probably break any kind of like etiquette rules or like social norms or stuff like that.
Because he was from the South, and that was a big thing. Like, you don't do that.
I famously slide like right in with people from the South because they're all about etiquette. I mean, sort of in certain pockets of it, but I'm always
you guys
like,
have like the Tara. The South pretty much has similar.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like there's a sort of crossover of cultures.
Oh, interesting.
So I wonder if that's what it is too. It's interesting.
All I know is that even the Islamic Revolution could not stop Huck Finn from being popular.
Interesting.
They tried, and everyone's like, no, we want Huck Finn back.
I gotta go read about this. I'm curious now.
There's a whole paper called Huck Finn in Persia or something. I can't remember, but you should go read about it. I didn't really have time to look into it, but of course, as with everything, find my way back to
Iran.
Anyway, that's my tab on how Mark Twain hated the Postal Service and took it to his grave, his hatred straight to his grave, and how I love him.
I loved that tab. That was I barely weighed in. I feel like I just was listening to you the whole time. It's a lot of fun stuff. No. I just mean that I was like, I just excited. I loved it. That was really entertaining. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm going to go back and listen to the recording afterwards and be like, oh yeah, no, I interjected every 30 seconds.
You talked a lot and you laughed and it was great.
Yeah.
10 out of 10 performance today.
Yeah. Anyway, that brings us to the time of the show where we get to close our tabs. We did say earlier that we wanted to
put some rain.
We wanted to rain them out.
Yeah.
Unless there's like a Mark Twain just like angrily writing a letter. Yeah.
Scribbling of like a dip pen on paper.
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe we feed it some sort of snake oil and then the tabs drop dead.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. The world's your oyster. Alyssa, whatever you think is best.
Yeah. Rain would be great because apparently we predicted the fires. So
that's true. Hopefully we're going to predict the rain dance. Okay. Should I count down?
Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, and I forgot to mention that the article I read from is Mark Twain had a lifelong feud with the United States Postal Service by Tucker Lady Phillips from Alice Obscura.
Oh, okay. And mine is Big Jim O'Leary from Irish Central, written by John Joe McGinley.
A lot of Irishness in that entire thing.
I mean, it's literally called Irish Central.
Yeah.
That was the first article I found. Anyway, moving on to listener emails. First up is Mary from Indianapolis.
Okay.
Hi, Kaveh and Hannah. I was so excited to hear Kaveh talk about Vavilov and Lysenko on the podcast because they were in the intro part of a book I read this year, and I had the exact same F this guy and this is horribly familiar reaction that Hannah did learning about Lysenko.
Oh.
The book is called How to Tame a Fox and Build a Dog.
Oh, it sounds like a Wes Anderson movie.
That's true. It does sound like a Wes Anderson movie. And it's about a long-running Soviet-Russian experiment to determine if there is a genetic component to domestication via selectively breeding foxes for tameness.
Oh.
To mimic how early humans may have domesticated dogs.
I've heard about this. They're trying to domesticate foxes right now.
Yeah. The book is really interesting, and the first few chapters give the Lysenko background. Because of him, they had to pretend they were just trying to breed better fur foxes versus doing research on the genetics of domestication.
Crazy.
This experiment started in the 1950s and is still active today. And yes, they did manage to breed foxes that look and act more like dogs solely by picking out the kits that seemed to the least scared of people and breeding them.
Oh, interesting.
I'm attaching both a Wikipedia page for a TLDR version of the experiment and the link to the Goodreads page for the book, which I would definitely recommend. Love the pod so much. Mary from Indianapolis. Thanks, Mary.
Mary? I mean, it would be fun to have a pet fox, even though they're just dogs with cat ears.
By the way, I thought this was fun too, because remember when I said from last week's episode, I said I started one tab, but then I ended up looking like world's most endangered or invasive species.
Yeah.
I never actually told you what the name of the article was that I was going to do it on.
Oh.
But it was called "How a Soviet Swamp Rat Scheme for Azerbaijan Went Horribly Wrong." So it's sort of like tangentially related to this listener email, which I think is fun.
That sounds sort of about fascinating.
I thought it was funny mostly because of Swamp Rat, which I knew you'd be really excited about.
But it's also about that's what drew you to it.
Yes. No, the word Swamp Rat, I was like, Hannah will just laugh every time I say Swamp Rat.
Yeah. Swamp Rat's the best. I love that word.
It's about them going into Azerbaijan and how they ended up becoming not great for the area. Anyway, the point is that the Lysenko stuff seems to have, permeated into a lot of different places.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of
it makes sense.
This. Yeah.
The Soviet Union lasted for a long time, and science was based on his stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Mary.
This is from Jesse. Kaveh and Hannah. Greetings from snowy Rochester, New York, home of Kodak, Susan B. Anthony, and the Garbage Plate. What's that? Hold on.
That sounds like the Hannah Hillam plate.
Garbage. Woo! Yep. I might have to go look that up. I've been listening since April Fool's Day, when my Mothman-loving friend Dan from Pennsylvania turned me on to your Better Than Mid podcast.
Better Than Mid? That's actually a good... I feel like we can do an upgrade. It'd be like this Better Than Mid podcast. I like that. We might have to start using that in our campaign or in our advertising campaigns.
He sent me Kaveh's Mothman book in 2023 as a birthday present. I won't mention that it took me 2 months until 2 months ago to connect that it was the same Kaveh.
You know what? That warms my heart. You know why? Because to him, that's just another person named Kaveh that exists out in the world, creating things and putting them out. So it's cool. Or Jesse, him, her. I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I should say that person. I have no idea what. Jesse
Jesse's one of those names where it's like no
could
idea.
Go one way or another.
Yeah.
Continue.
I wrote to share a tab adjacent to Old Rip, which was discussed this week. So this is from a while ago. Let me introduce you to Mike the Headless Chicken. I first learned about Mike when I was shooting a promotional video for Fruita, Colorado, the home of Miracle Mike. On September 10th, 1945, his wife sent farmer Lloyd Olson out to butcher a chicken for dinner with his mother-in-law. Lloyd, not being so happy about the company, was less than accurate with his axe stroke and cut off most of the chicken's head, but missed the jugular vein, one ear, and most of the brainstem. The chicken, Mike, had survived and became a media sensation. Have you ever seen a video of this? You gotta watch a video of this.
No.
Featured in Time and Life magazines, Lloyd began touring the country with this most unusual fowl. You might be asking yourself, how did Mike eat without a head? Lloyd would feed the bird a mixture of milk and water with an eyedropper and little bits of... Sorry. I'm just picturing some eyedropper. The open...
He's like, it's Visine.
And little bits of corn and worms. In March of 1947, at a motel in Phoenix, Arizona, Mike began choking, unfortunately. And unfortunately, Lloyd had left the eyedropper to give Mike liquid at the sideshow the day prior, thus ending the career of Mike the Headless Chicken, who, at the height of his popularity, made $4,500 a month. That's more.
I'm making less than a headless chicken?
Yeah.
That's like $10,000 a minute by today's standards.
Right? It's like the Jeff Bezos of headless animals.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, look at this picture. Dear Lord.
Yep. Mike's legacy lives on in Fruita, Colorado, where they celebrate the annual Mike the Headless Chicken Day, the third weekend of May. I hope you enjoyed that tab, and maybe take a look at this other fun cryptid for a possible future episode.
Oh my God. Yeah.
The Hodag. Thank you for the hours of entertainment and joy. Your fellow fan of the weird, Jesse.
Love it.
Can you believe that picture?
That's really upsetting. I love it. Incredible.
I think they have a video of it I've seen before, and it is the most wild. Like, all it needs is the brainstem.
Yeah, really cool. I'm going to be looking that up for a little bit after this.
Yeah.
If you too have a listener email you'd like to submit, please go ahead and email it to 500opentabs@gmail.com. That's 500. Give us a little blurb about what you learned. Let us know where you're from, and of course the link. And we're also, as always, taking listener submission voice memos because we'd like to hear you too. So if you can keep it around a minute-ish, that'd be great.
Yeah, and if you want to follow us, we're also at 500 Open Tabs on Instagram and Discord. We have a fun Discord, and we have a fun Patreon where I post all the extras that get cut. And usually there's about 10 minutes every week of just nonsense.
Some of them are very extra, some might say.
Yeah, some of them are just us talking. So
that's all we do. By the way, if you are not aware, we're going to be at Emerald City Comic Con the first weekend of March up in Seattle. So if you're going to plan on going to that convention, please come see us in Artist Alley. We also have an Escaping the Algorithm panel. We're taking it on the road. That's going to be on Friday night. We're going to have more details about that as we get closer to the date, but just putting it out there earlier so that people know.
Yes.
But other than that, you can find me. I'm at PermaFriends on Instagram and just my name, Kaveh Taherian, on Blue Sky. Nothing interesting to update there, but that's where I am.
At Hillam on everything. That's all.
And I think that about wraps us up. We should go. Let's quit while we're ahead.
Well, I was going to say, please subscribe and rate and click
do
the
all
links.
that stuff.
And I know, but it's a good reminder.
I don't know if I'm curious. Let us know. Have you ever actually done it because we said it at the end of the podcast? We're curious if that even works, or we're just wasting our breath. Maybe we're just wasting our breath. Maybe this whole podcast is just wasting our breath. We won't find out until next week.
You're getting too existential. And thanks to Alyssa.
Thank you to Alyssa. Thank you to all our listeners. And in the meantime, keep it Josie and keep it Secundus.
Secundus Nixon shat on the post office 5 times.
Shat on the post office for 40 years straight.
When
are we going to get a Secundus Nixon stamp?
We need... Is that what they're calling it?
Yeah.
Anyway. Bye.
Thank you, Anna. Goodbye.
It's always so unceremonious. I never know how to say it.
Goodbye.
Bye.